Hello friends, this is Balwant Singh again. Today I'm here with a series on Agile Scrum. In this episode, we are going to focus on an overview on the Agile Scrum. We'll have different other parts of this series where we'll talk about all other aspects of Agile Scrum in detail. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do that now so that you will get all the other parts of this series when I release that very soon in future. Okay, so with that, we'll jump into this overview of Agile Scrum. This is the agenda we are going to stick to today. We are going to talk about the definitions of Agile and Scrum. What is Agile Manifesto? What are the differences between Waterfall and Agile methodology? What are the different ceremonies, or we call those and events as well in Scrum? What are different roles and responsibilities in Scrum? What is a sprint cycle, or we call that an iteration as well in Scrum? Then we'll conclude the episode. So the definitions of Agile and Scrum. What is Agile? Agile is an iterative approach to project management and software development that helps teams deliver value to their customer faster. It is a mindset and philosophy that describes a set of principles in Agile Manifesto. It is a methodology. So first thing is Agile is a methodology, whereas Scrum is a framework. Agile is a mindset and a philosophy, meaning it is not just a set of processes and tools, it is a different mindset altogether. That mindset is all described in set of 12 principles which are mentioned in Agile Manifesto. We'll talk about Agile Manifesto in this episode, but we are not going to talk about all those 12 principles in detail here. We'll have an episode on those 12 principles as well. But those all encapsulate the real sense of Agile, right? So, and it is an iterative approach. It is not a sequential approach to the software development where we plan, analyze, design, build, test, and then deploy. It is an iterative approach where we try to build a smaller functionality real quick and get that tested, get customers' feedback on it, incorporate the feedback, if any, and deliver to the customer. So, and keep doing this iteratively in small cycles. That's Agile. What is Scrum? Scrum is a framework, right? This is a framework that will implement this Agile mindset. There are multiple other frameworks as well. For example, extreme programming, feature-driven development, and there are many more. Scrum is one of very popular framework in Agile. It's been there for a long time. So our focus is going to be Scrum framework in this series. So this Scrum framework defines various roles, ceremonies or events, what artifacts we build here, and what are the guidelines to implement Agile mindset. It focuses on having small time-boxed sprints or iterations to deliver value to the customer faster. So it has small sprints, a week sprint, 2-week sprint, 3-week sprints, and we pick up a chunk of functionality which has the highest value from customer's perspective. We build that, get it tested, get it reviewed by customer, and deliver it, right? So we keep just doing this in those small iterations frequently, and that's how we deliver the software real fast in production. Now, what is Agile Manifesto? So, Agile Manifesto was built in 2001 by 17 like-minded people. So they got together, they really tried to come up with a documentation on Agile, although they had several disagreements, but they had consensus on the four core values that everyone should be, considering while implementing Agile. So these are the four values, core values of Agile, which are mentioned in the manifesto. It was written in 2001. What are these four core values? First one, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So in Agile, we value the individuals and interactions between them more than defined processes and tools. The waterfall approach had a lot of focus on well-defined processes and tools, although we have processes and tools in Agile as well, but here the focus is more on people working on it and how they interact with each other on a day-to-day basis, right? The collaboration, that's the focus. The second one is working software over comprehensive documentation. The success criteria here is measuring the working software, the software which is built and delivered to the customer is measured as a success criteria, not a comprehensive documentation. We do documentation, but just enough documentation in Agile. Whereas in waterfall or traditional software development, we used to do a very detailed documentation on requirement, then detailed design, and then we do a build and test and all other things, right? So there used to be a phase of requirements gathering and then doing a design, right? We don't do the documentation at that level of details in Agile. We just do enough documentation to start building on the highest priority requirements, and then we keep building on the documentation as we go along. Third one here is the customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So the focus is to collaborate with the customer. Customer is really part of the team. The product owner who is from the customer side is part of the team. This role is really working very closely with the team. He is there, always there to clarify any questions the team might have on the requirements, on the vision of the project, right? What is that the value that project is going to deliver or the product is going to deliver? So product owner is always there to clarify those questions for the team. Over contract negotiation, it's not like what is defined in the contract is what we are going to stick to, like in waterfall. Responding to change over following a plan. The focus here is respond to the change, embrace the change that really will deliver the value to the business, not just following a plan. So in waterfall, we have a plan and we just stick to that plan, right? That plan is done for like entire project and we hardly change that plan. Here, our plan is is just enough to get started. And then we keep planning as we learn, and we respond to the changes in the requirements, the changes in the market, the changes in the ecosystem of the customer's environment. So this is Agile Manifesto. These core four values is what Agile Manifesto is. While there is a value in the items on the right, we're not saying that these are not important. These are very much important. We've been doing this for several years in waterfall approach, but Agile value the items on the left more. That's the crux of it. Differences between waterfall and Agile. So we'll talk about few differences that we have in waterfall and Agile. The first one here is it follows a sequential design process. The waterfall follows a sequential design. We do the planning first, we do requirements analysis first, we do a design first, and then build, and then we test, and then we deploy. It's a very sequential thing. In Agile, we follow the incremental approach where each increment is developed in a time box iteration. So in Agile, it's like an increment, right? In that iteration, what we are going to deliver. So we do everything within that iteration. We do the planning, we do the design, we do the requirements gathering, we do the build and test and deploy as well. In waterfall, planning is done upfront. The entire planning for the entire project is done upfront in the beginning, and that plan becomes really a Bible for the entire project that hardly changes. In Agile, it's done at different intervals. In the beginning, just enough planning is done. So planning is done in the beginning just to get started. Then we keep doing it at different intervals. We do the planning when the sprint starts. We do a planning on a daily basis as well for the sprint which is in progress. So that's the difference. Low level of customer collaboration in waterfall. The customer really doesn't have a lot of collaboration here. In the beginning, when the requirements are gathered, they are there to review the requirements and approve the requirements. After that, design is done for like a month or two. It is delivered to the customer. They just review and sign off. So it really, they're not there to collaborate on a day-to-day basis. Whereas in Agile, it's a high level of customer collaboration. Customer is really tied very closely with the team, and they keep interacting on a day-to-day basis. Detailed requirements upfront. The requirement gathering is also done upfront in the beginning, and then it hardly changes. If you have to change a requirement after the development is started, you really have to follow a very lengthy change control process. High-level requirements are captured upfront, which are refined in each iteration. Agile capture high-level requirements in the beginning, keep refining them for the next sprint, and deliver on those requirements in the next sprint, and then just keep detailing the requirements for the sprint after next, and so on and so forth. That's how we do in Agile. Measurement of success is in terms of completed and reviewed artifacts. Here in waterfall, how many artifacts are done, which phase is done, which milestone is achieved. That's what the measurement criteria of the success in waterfall. Whereas in Agile, the measurement of success is in terms of developed and delivered functionality. What is really built, tested, and delivered finally to the customer is what the measurement of success is. The process is rigid about accepting changes after development is started. You can't really change the requirements so easily here once the development is started. You have to follow a rigorous change control process. Agile embraces the change. It is flexible to accept changes even after development is started. Agile is all about, embracing the change and not following just the plan. So in nutshell, this is how it looks. In Waterfall, we have a plan for, let's say, 6 to 9 months. We first do our planning for good amount of time for the entire duration. Then we do analysis of the requirements. Then we do a design phase. After that, we do a development, which is our build phase. We have the testing then, and after that we deploy. After 6 to 9 months, a project is deployed into production. The functionality is deployed into production. Whereas in Agile, we keep doing all of these things iteratively, and we put a piece of functionality into production every 2-3 months. Right? We do a plan, analyze, design, build, test, deploy. Then we do this, and then we do this, and we keep, doing a deployment of the highest value to the customer. So this is, this is really the difference. In Agile, we have the short releases. We do all of these phases in the release. We do the planning, we do analyze, we do design, build, test, and deploy. So every 2-3 months, we have a release. So we deliver the highest business priority requirements into the customer's production environment after every couple of months. That's how Agile works. Scrum ceremonies or events. What are the Scrum ceremonies or events? So Scrum has 4 ceremonies. What are the Scrum ceremonies or events? Scrum mentions 4 ceremonies, or we call those events as well. The first one is sprint planning. Sprint planning is done on the first day of the sprint. This is where the team decides the scope of the sprint by working with the product owner, and they discuss their initial plan to complete the backlog items in the sprint. So, and the scope is locked for the duration of the sprint. So on this day, this happens on the first day, in the first half of the first day. This happens in the first half of the first day of the sprint, where team goes through all the stories in the order of priority decided by product owner. They pick those stories one by one, and they define the scope of the sprint. So that scope is locked for that duration of the sprint. It's whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it is locked for that duration. That's the sprint planning. That's the first ceremony of Scrum. The second one is daily Scrum. This is a meeting that happens every day. It happens mostly in the morning for about 15 to 20 minutes. In this meeting, the team collaborates and plans their activities for rest of the day. So this is a daily planning. They come in the meeting and they talk about what they did yesterday, what's their plan for today, and who is having a roadblock. So the team collectively discusses on the roadblocks faced by anyone, and they come up with a solution, and they do the planning for rest of the day. That today's game plan is this. This is how we are going to address some of the requirements in the sprint. The third ceremony is a sprint review. This meeting happens on the last day of the sprint where team does a demo of the functionality which is implemented in the sprint. So this is nothing but whatever you have implemented, go review with the customer and other stakeholders, get their feedbacks and implement that feedback in the next sprint. The last one is sprint retrospective. This also happens on the last day of the sprint, and this one the team gets together to reflect on how the sprint went. What were the good things, what were not so good things, what we should continue with, what we should discontinue, and what are the new things that we should start. So it's basically a meeting to self retrospect and improve in the next sprint. Now we'll talk about Scrum roles and responsibilities. Scrum talks about 3 roles. Those are Scrum Master, Product Owner, and the development team. A Scrum Master is a servant leader, meaning this role is always there at team's disposal to help and guide them wherever needed. Scrum Master removes all the obstacles, difficulties that the team might face. He or she finds a way to get team help to remove the roadblocks. This role really serves as a bridge between product management and the development team. The product management is the team who owns the product, who owns the backlog. That includes product owner and other stakeholders. So the Scrum Master really makes sure that he or she is acting as a bridge between the development team and the product management group. This role coaches the team on Agile practices and ensures they follow Agile Scrum process and guidelines. On a day-to-day basis, this role ensures the team is really following Agile, and he coaches them wherever needed on a day-to-day basis. The second role is product owner. This is very important role. Product owner is the person who owns the product backlog. This role really manages and prioritizes all the requirements within the product backlog as per the business value of the requirements. This role serves as a liaison between product and the development team. The development team goes to this role for any clarification on the requirements. This role evaluates the work done by the development team and provides constant feedback. So every piece of development that the team has done, after doing the testing within the team, they review that with the product owner. The product owner also really tests and then signs off on the requirements and provide the feedback to the team if there is any, and then the team implements those feedback. So that's product owner's role. Then we have the team, the development team. I mean, this is the complete team. We call this as a development team, but it has developers, testers, all other different roles, business analysts, etc., etc. The role of this team is to design, build, integrate, and test the backlog items. They implement the solution. The team helps in refining the requirements and they estimate the requirements. They work with the product owner, reviews and refine requirements, and provide estimates to the product owner about the requirements in the backlog. Team also does the sprint planning and they do the goal setting for the sprint. So these are three important roles in Scrum. This is the sprint cycle or iteration, whatever we call. This is what happens in a sprint end to end. This really encapsulates everything that is done in Scrum from end to end. So the product owner makes sure the requirements are documented in the product backlog. They are prioritized. The product owner keeps working with the end users, customers, a lot of other stakeholders, and gathers the requirements and document those requirements into the product backlog. So this backlog is always, so this backlog is owned by the product owner. Once the backlog is captured, the product owner works with the team in refining the backlog. Okay, start over. This is the sprint cycle or an iteration. This is everything that happens in a sprint from end to end. This is really a crux of a Scrum, right? The product owner who owns the product backlog item keeps working with the end users, customers, and various other stakeholders and gathers the requirements, documents those requirements into the product backlog. Product owner ensures that the requirements are prioritized as per the business value. Then we have a sprint planning that happens on the first day of the sprint, in the first half of the sprint. No, cancel that. So this is the sprint cycle. A sprint cycle can be anything between a week to 4 weeks. Typically, it's a couple of weeks, like two weeks. Scrum Master is everywhere, right, in the sprint. Scrum Master really facilitates all the Scrum ceremonies, make sure the requirements are there, documented by product owner, requirements are prioritized by the product owner, right? The team is in place. There is the sprint cycle is defined. So let's assume this is a 2-week sprint cycle. In those 2 weeks, the first thing that happens on the first day, in the first half of first day, is sprint planning. This is done by the team. Everyone in the team participates in this planning meeting, including the Scrum Master and product owner. All they do in this meeting is the product owner picks the stories from the backlog as per the business priority, puts it across the team, and the team goes through those user stories or requirements, picks those one by one, and asks questions if there is any. Otherwise, put an estimate and make the story or the requirement as part of the sprint. They keep doing this until they have exhausted the capacity of the team. So this becomes the sprint backlog. This scope is fixed for this duration of the sprint. Within that sprint, a backlog refinement call happens on a regular basis. It's decided by the team. Some teams does it once a week. Some teams does it, once in 2 weeks, right? So they keep in this meeting, they keep reviewing the new stories that are added into the backlog by product owner. They refine those by working with product owner and they estimate those. So these requirements are for future sprints, but they just keep doing it on an ongoing basis in the sprint. There is a daily scrum that happens on every day, mainly in the morning. There is a daily scrum meeting that happens every day in the morning for about 15 to 20 minutes, where team gets together and they do the planning for rest of the day. So after the sprint is done, on the last day, there is a sprint review, which is nothing but the demo to the product owner and the other stakeholders. So the team shows the functionality implemented in the sprint to product owner and all other stakeholders, gets their feedbacks, and works on that feedback in the next sprint. That's how they make the shippable product increment ready. So this piece of functionality is tested, reviewed, and ready for deployment in production. Okay. Then on the last day, the team does sprint retrospective as well. They get together here and they just go through how the sprint went and they document the steps to improve in the next sprint. So this is the entire sprint cycle. So we come here on the last. Okay, so we have covered Agile and Scrum definitions today, what Agile Manifesto is, what are the main differences between Waterfall and Agile, what are 4 Scrum ceremonies, what are those 3 important roles in Scrum, and what is a sprint cycle or iteration. So this concludes today's episode. Please subscribe to my channel to get remaining parts of this series. In the description of this video, I have also provided links to my other videos on Agile Scrum. Please do watch them. Those are some of the important topics on Agile Scrum. Thank you for watching.